I think we can go ahead and get started then. Calling the meeting to order, and we'll start with the roll call.
Ms. Cooper Payton,
Present.
Ms. Harrell, Ms. Hetland,
Present.
Mr. Jacobson,
Here.
Ms. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Orcherton,
Here.
Mr. Patterson,
Here.
Ms. Salmon,
Here?
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
Okay. We have a quorum, correct? Yep, we got everybody. It's good. Super quorum. Okay, we have one change to the agenda. Dennis Roberts is going to be speaking during the public input section. Next, we're going to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Did anybody have any questions or comments about those notes? Okay, if not, I move that we approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, they're approved. Okay, let's go ahead and have Dennis Roberts come and speak to us.
Hey, hello, Arts Commission.
Hi.
Faces have changed a little bit since I was here a while ago. So I just wanted to say that, okay, I'm Dennis Roberts. I'm a member of the community, quite interested in the arts, of course. Also the chairman of our Urbana Sister Cities program. And last year, we were the proud recipients of a small grant from the Arts Commission to do a project. And we had proposed to do an art exchange with our sister city, Thionville, in France, and to engage members of the younger adult African-American community here in our public school system, and to do ultimately an exchange, an art exchange, and then come up with a show at the end. And we would also probably have had what we would call a Malawi mixer, which is kind of a party, actually, to celebrate the event. So it didn't work out. We were not able to really drill down to get real feedback from our sister city in France, and it's possibly because 2 years ago their mayor passed away, and the new deputy mayor hasn't really been all that responsive to us, and also his twinning city councilor was assigned to other duties and has been very busy, so we just never have had this interaction that we were hoping to do with our sister city in France. Well, now, we did participate in judging of arts event with the AXO Arts Program, which is an African-American arts organization sponsored partly by the NAACP, and it's run by Barb Gillespie, and this mostly has to do with African-American children in junior high school and earlier grades of high school in Champaign. That's kind of where they meet. They meet over at the Douglas Center. So we actually, Meg Miller and I actually juried a show with them, and we had talked to them about the theme, and only one person actually responded and actually did a picture relating to the theme. And so that wasn't necessarily a bad thing, I guess, but it didn't quite fill the goal that we had to participate in the Young Artists and Authors International Showcase, which was sponsored by Sister Cities International in Washington, D.C. So I thought that we could still, however, would be able to land presentation of the traveling show of those individuals who had been selected, and there's about 35 or 40 pieces of art that we could have shown here locally, except by the time that the paperwork and everything for this grant came through, they told me at the international office that they had already booked the show. There were no more slots to book, and they really weren't interested in extending the show itinerary. So really everything that we tried to do kind of didn't work out this year. So what does that mean? I guess I'm just sort of doing due diligence to come here and tell you that thank you very much. We really thought we had a great idea. We received $250 to do this. It's not like we got a $2,000 grant. It's a $250 grant. The money was placed into our sister city account, which is held by the city of Urbana. Except, it's interesting to note, and I'm not quite sure how this works out, but I have here the check that was deposited in November of 2017, and it was only for $125. So I don't know if you give us a seed money and then get the rest after the completion. Maybe that's what happens. Okay, so we got the seed money, and I'm going to let you know that I'm going to talk to our finance department and tell them to give it back to you. And I don't know what you can do with it, but somebody in the future will benefit from that. And you'll at least have a surplus at the end of the year, if you don't already, of $125. So I'm sorry that it didn't work out. I think it could have been a really fun experience for us, and we would have been proud to do it. But since it didn't happen, I just thought I'd tell you that thanks, but nothing happened this year for us. Okay.
Okay, well, thanks for letting us know. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Eric.
So I know Dennis quite well from having served on city council and so forth. And I just want to say that Dennis is very diligent in following through with everything that he proposes to do. So I absolutely would say that this should not prejudice any future applications that Dennis might want to make to us.
Sure.
Well, that's really kind, but I'm certainly going to have my eggs all lined up in a row before or ducks. I guess it's the ducks.
The ducks come before the eggs.
Well, it's more creative to think about eggs. Anyway, so I'll try to have my act together. If I ever do come back for an arts grant from you guys, which it's hard to tell, but we tried it once, and you have other applicants who are probably so happy to receive them. So good luck, and thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your effort.
Okay, we're next going to have a grant presentation by Jason Finkelman.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, welcome back.
Thank you. Just a small note, Finkelman is spelled K-E-L-M-A-N. So if you want to put that in the record, just a small thing. So I hit the bottom, yeah, and then left click it. Okay, and then from the beginning. Probably had the same problem last time. Okay, so I have a short presentation. I put it on a PowerPoint slide just for convenience. There's a small audio example. I'm here today representing the Robert E. Brown Center for World Music. My title at the University of Illinois is Director of Global Arts Performance Initiatives, which is housed at Krannert Center for the Performing Arts. But under that title, I do see after programming on behalf of the Robert E. Brown Center for World Music. So I only mention that because I know that the funding was sent through Krannert Center, and Krannert Center was the principal recipient, but I managed the funds through the School of Music, of which the Center for World Music is a program of. So moving through the slides, we received funding to present a Balinese Gamelan residency again at MLK Junior Elementary School, which we were able to do in August through October of 2017. And then we had a bit of a delay on acquiring additional funding to offset what we needed to have Jean-René Balakita present in local elementary schools in Urbana. So as I said, the Robert E. Brown Center for World Music is an engagement program of the School of Music at the University of Illinois, promoting understanding and appreciation of music and performance traditions of the world. And funding from the Urbana Arts Grant Program enabled the center to offer interactive, hands-on Balinese Gamelan residency for fourth graders at MLK Junior Elementary. And the arts grant, as I mentioned, also assisted in presenting Congolese musician Jean-René Balakita in 2 Urbana elementary schools in MLK Junior and Dr. Williams. Here's a photo of the set that we brought to MLK this year. This is an Angklong Gamelan set. It's noted for the 4-key gamelan instruments that where Putu is sitting, those are the bass instruments, and then to the left of the image, you'll see a longer instrument, which 4 students sit behind. The big gongs in the back keep time, as well as some other instruments in the drums that you see in the center of the photo. So, Iputu Tankas Adi Hiran returned to MLK Jr. as a Center for World Music teaching artist, and this was our second collaboration with Urbana School District music teacher Kara Morizi. And over the course of 8 75-minute classes, our teaching artists introduced 24 students to the names and basic playing techniques of the instruments, and as well as the singing style that developed from gamelan music. That musical style is commonly known as monkey chant. He strengthened their musicality through call and response rhythm exercises. He had them perform sections of sectionally so that they could listen to each other and hear how the parts combine. And what I like about what Tankas does with the students is that he allows them to create their own music on the instruments, and so they are performing original music on the gamelan. On the final day of the residency, the students gave 2 presentations for 3rd grade students. There were approximately 60 3rd graders, along with their teachers and some of the parents of the students. The teacher, Kara, prepared an introduction that the students collectively read to the audience, which also provided information on the background of myself and their professor, and then they performed their piece. So here's a photo of the ensemble the way we had it set up in the room, and you could see the audience in the foreground of one of the sets. And here is a sample of what they heard that day.
Oh. It says codec
Codec
unavailable.
unavailable.
Means you can't play it, I guess.
Oh.
I can, I have my computer. I could put in the audio. I'll get back to the music and I'll just move ahead so I don't take up too much of the time. But I'll also get this plugged into the audio here. Oh, I have it right on my desktop. Big gongs are hidden in the background a little bit. Okay, so that was their performance. They did that piece twice for each audience, and it was fun to watch them accomplish that. All right, Jean-René Balakita is a local Urbana artist. He presented a 40-minute program for 3 French classes at MLK Junior Elementary on March 26th, where over 75 students and 10 teachers sung songs in French set to Congolese music styles. They were also introduced in this picture. You could see Jean-René has a traditional instrument that's a marimba, and we do a piece together where I accompany him on the Afro-Brazilian berimbau. So we get to actually introduce kind of a cross-cultural piece on that. But he had them singing some common children's songs in French, playing in Congolese music styles on guitar. And then on April 4th, Jean-René Balakita presented to over 165 first, second, and fifth grade students during 2 30-minute music classes at Dr. Williams Elementary. We had these classes, these sessions in a classroom. In this case, there's a picture of him. He started doing like a call and response for the kids to follow the motions of the song. And then as an agreement with receiving some extra funds from the School of Music, we presented 2 50-minute lecture demonstrations for nearly 400 U of I students in general world music classes. So we had a little bonus session with the funding from the School of Music. So the Urbana Arts Grant Program made it possible to expand the Center for World Music's educational engagement programming, establishing deeper connections with Urbana teachers and offering culturally rich music experiences to local elementary students. The grant supported 2 Urbana-based artists, Mr. Hiram Mayena, who is a PhD candidate in ethnomusicology at the University of Illinois, and Mr. Balakita, a recent immigrant from Democratic Republic of the Congo, noted for his work in Congolese gospel. A result of this successful programming led to new support from the School of Music and College of Fine and Applied Arts at the University of Illinois to continue offering programs for K-12 audiences which foster respect, admiration, participation, and learning about global practices in the arts. And to be more specific, we're planning on taking a gamelan back to MLK for a 3rd year. That is being funded by the School of Music and the College of FAA, as well as I'm pleased to announce that Jean-René Balakita will be a visiting artist, a resident artist of the Center for World Music in the fall of 2018. And in being a resident artist of the University of Illinois at the Center for World Music, we're going to offer some workshops in Congolese music styles for the students at the University of Illinois, but we also have written in components of educational engagement, and we hope to expand what we've been doing here in Urbana to other schools. So the grant funding has really helped Jean-René in establishing himself in our community, which is really nice to see. He recently was an artist in residence at Stratton Elementary in Champaign. So he's getting around, and it's really a rewarding work to work with an artist such as him, who is a new member of our community. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer what I can. Thank you for your support from the Robert E. Brown Center for World
Thank
Music.
you. Sounds like a great program. Did anyone have comments?
Just a quick comment. In addition to the things that you mentioned, the Urbana Public Arts Program was also able to sort of book Jean-René for our Art at the Market this summer. So we're excited to have him there too. Thank you.
Great. Very good. Anyone else? Okay, well, thanks very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much. Click exit. You know I had trouble with this last time. Escape. And
No, we don't think you broke it.
no, I'll just close that one. Okay.
Okay, next we'll have a grant presentation from Derek Lindsay.
Good evening. Good evening.
Hi.
This thing on. There we go.
All right.
Yeah. My name is Derek Lindsay. I am a music and audio production instructor, and I also work as a substitute teacher for Unit 4 here in Champaign. So basically, the basis of me being here is, well, I have to thank the Urbana Arts Grant for the opportunity. For the grant funds really did help out for what it was that I was looking to do as far as this program. So making it short and sweet, the program that I used, the program that I put on for the grant fund was called the Essentials of Music Production and Recording. And then my mic just went out again, and it came back in. I work in audio, and I'm having issues. It's a contradiction. We're not judging. All right, don't want to get my audio card revoked here. All right, here we go. So the Essentials of Music Production and Recording is basically a program that I started years ago, where I would take studio for those who didn't have access to recording studios or knowledge of the music industry or music production. What I would do is I would take a mini setup, just some basic gear, and I'll go to schools or I'll go to certain establishments and put on workshops, like 1 to 2 hour workshops. And the point of the workshops was to educate a lot of the youth who, there's a lot of ambition. A lot of the youth love to make music, love to record audio. One of the issues that I always ran into is they didn't have proper access to know how to do it right. You know, they can punch a few buttons here and there. They can pull up some YouTube videos, but it's something about getting a one-on-one FaceTime to learn it. So that was that's how the program really started. So as far as with this one here, so what I ended up doing is, for 2 days I ended up doing a portion at the IMC where my studio is located. We did an open forum location in the main stage area at the IMC, and the second day was more dedicated to the one-on-one studio time. So there were a number of 6 attendants for this project. I had 3 walk-ins, and then we had 3 studio sign-ups. And as you can see, the demographic was 4 males, 2 females. I was more impressed with the age range. It was between 16 to 45, which was the kind of show that there's a pretty wide interest for music on all levels and whatnot. So as far as promotion, I originally set out, you know, we always want to start out doing something really big, and part of my prior military service, I'm used to, we plan things out one way, and then it kind of ends up another. So what ended up happening was I initially wanted to go into the schools again directly, but I was, you know, told within the agenda that it was more directed toward the community. So I had to make some adjustments. So part of that adjustment was instead of with flyers and radio promotion, I went straight to online. And so I did a lot of the promotion on Facebook. I did a weekly Facebook live chat that I do every week, which I update on music advice, things of that nature. So that was one of the main parts of the promotion there. So during the workshop, one of the problems that was solved is the people that came in, some of them already had prior experience with audio, but they could not get past a certain hump. There was, you know, they're like, I don't know how to keep the music on time. I bought all this software, but I don't know how to utilize it. And I get on YouTube, and the person is not really explaining it. They're moving too fast. It's frustrating, and they want to give up, which I can't blame them. You drop about 10 or 15 grand in equipment, and you can't get it to work. It's pretty discouraging. So one of the problems that I did resolve was I showed one of the gentlemen how to properly work all of his equipment. He learned about more about music production. He learned more about recording, a lot of techniques that he wasn't even aware of that I was showing him. And one of the advantages of that was, on average, that type of information, if you went to a private school for that type of info, you're averaging about $12,000 a year just to sit in some of these music and audio production courses. So for 2 hours of his evening, he got about $12,000 worth of education for free. And he was able to basically extend more into music to what he wanted to do. So that was one of the problems that was solved. And we had the picture was kind of out of there, but that was one of the students there who were just working on one of the keyboards there, just kind of learning, digging in deeper, using hardware, which he's never used before. But then he walked away with learning how to use this piece of equipment, and then initially he wants to buy something similar to that. So the breakdown of it, as far as with the grant, this is what was extremely helpful. For the services that he actually got, if this was, if he was actually in the music industry and he wanted to go to a professional to get these services, this is kind of the breakdown of it. Just to sit down and have an instrumental just created from scratch, you're looking at like a minimum of $500, and that's the low end. Recording and mixing usually bills out at about $50 an hour. Lessons, as you can see here, $50, consultation $50 an hour. So you can see how fast it adds up, and the value is they got all this information just for coming in for 2 hours. So that was one of the benefits. So as far as the curriculum, there are some things that I did want to do different if I had to do it again. With the funds, for what I wanted to do early on, the fund amount was fine. The only problem that I had was the duration when the funds were issued versus when I was trying to do the promotion, do the radio, do the flyers. Making more grandiose was kind of difficult, just because when I'm dealing with students, with finals and testing and things of that nature. So I have to move faster during the school year when doing things of this nature. So that was probably the only hiccup, is in the future, if they were allocated faster just to get most of that taken care of, that'll be something that'll make it better. So outside of that, some of the supporters that I had for it, obviously the Urbana Public Arts Program. Urbana High School, which I've done this program for, some of the students from there actually showed up to the event as well, based off of they remember me from their classroom, and it's like, it's the beat guy, it's the beat dude. So it was kind of cool to see some of the students from there. The University of Illinois, I currently teach 2 students from there privately for piano and music and audio engineering. And those students I added on from a presentation I did for the U of I back in March. So that was pretty cool. And of course, the IMC has been extremely helpful as far as allowing the space for me to teach the programs, as well as opening up the live performance for students and enthusiasts as well. So overall, I thought it turned out well. Even if I planned out for 100 people, even to get, if it's one person that can walk away with something, to me that's an accomplishment. I mean, we always want more, but some is better than nothing in this type of situation. So outside of that, I still want to thank the Urbana Arts Grant for, I think they familiar with my face with these programs as far as the grants. But just to thank them again for the opportunity to be able to launch another workshop. So that is all I had as far as that.
Good. Thank you. Any comments?
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
so I missed, probably it was there and it just went by me. How many people did actually, did you work with?
6. So we had 3 that were walk-ins, and the other 3 showed up for the Saturday one-on-one in the studio. So they got piano, music production, and audio engineering lessons. And it was based off of their schedule. They couldn't make that Friday, but Saturday worked out better for them. So that was the tally.
Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
Just a quick comment, Derek. You've been a part of many of our programs, and I just wanted to acknowledge that Derek, for public arts commissioners who are newer, Derek was our featured artist, one of our featured artists on Open Scene,
Oh, yeah. I didn't know about that.
which ultimately led to him opening a music studio at the IMC,
Yes.
and was also the recipient of Arts in the Schools. And you mentioned how some of the students knew you from Arts in the Schools
Yes.
and doing that at Urbana High School. So you've had a lot of experience now with the arts program, and we're happy
Yes.
to support you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Eric, go ahead.
You know, this isn't specific.
Sure.
Specific to Derek's project, but it just popped into my head. Do we ever do any explicit co-funding with the school district? Or, you know, how does that work? Is there a chance for synergy and leverage from that perspective?
I think there's absolutely a chance. One of the things that I think I've seen in final reports that I've read, and those are ones that largely come from the past, since I'm still new, I say, but is that a lot of the even Arts in the Schools programs, sometimes there's been opportunity for the schools to then co-sponsor and offer support, or offer support even in fundraising. So one of our other Arts in the Schools projects that you'll hear a final report about probably more towards the end of the year is Roberta Westerman's outdoor arts classroom that was funded. And I know that one, for instance, had a pretty successful fundraiser, actually, that has resulted in wanting to clarify for me how the budget's growing and how things are going to sort of be changing in terms of the original grant proposal, because it's been allowed to get sort of bigger in that respect. But as far as formal, no, and I think that's a really great opportunity.
Yeah, and I guess I would toss the Park District into the mix also. And, yeah, I mean, maybe there's a chance to, you know, do things at bigger scale or do more things if we figure out how to work together.
Yeah, today I'm giving an annual report a little bit later, and it includes kind of an overview of some of our partners and how we've partnered, Park District being one of them. So I'll say a little bit more about that. But yeah, I think we've had some really fruitful partnerships, and it's interesting to explore the idea of how do we maybe make them more permanent, for instance.
Okay.
Comment, just
Oh,
quickly?
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I know that was partly the intention behind creating the Arts in the Schools grant,
Right.
because we wanted to expand the offerings and help support the schools. So I think it's just it's getting bigger and blossoming.
Well, thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next grant presentation will be Taslim Jamila, except it will be done by Rachel. She sent in a video, so.
She sent a video, and I think the way I'll do it, because she also sent a PowerPoint presentation, is to start the video. She doesn't move or anything, it's just her talking, so you can see her for a few seconds, and then I'll actually open her PowerPoint and let her talk while we're looking at it. So it'll be like she's here, almost.
Hi, my name is Taslim Firdausi, and artist name Taslim Jamila. So
Can you
I
hear her
received the
okay?
Urbana Arts Grant in 2017. I'm a poet, spoken word artist, was so excited to get the grant, and my first thing was I want to work with the youth. I've worked with youth for decades, and I hadn't had a chance to work really exclusively with youth in Urbana, and so this was my chance. So Speak Life Workshop was created as a way for youth to express themselves through poetry, through theater, through action, through exercising, writing, and creating. So connecting and talking about social justice issues or issues that are going on in their city, in their school, and connected to the global, the worldwide, to see that we're all connected, we're all one. So I picked IMC, the Independent Media Center, to facilitate the workshops. I had it March 12th through March 16th, so Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. So after school program, great space. Brian was very open. I picked the space because they really do some great events there that are art with the community, really diverse events. And Brian is just really easy to work with. And plus, it was close by Urbana Middle School and the high school. So the first day I had about 10 students come through. It was really exciting. I had the flyers. I had a friend to pass out the flyers for me at the schools, take them to the schools before that. And so really excited to have them there. We had prizes, every day we had snacks, gave them free notebooks and a lot of free prizes, things that I gave out for them. But we tackled and talked about what was going on with them, what's going on in your schools, what's going on, what concerns you as a youth. And it was actually the week of the walkout, and so it was great to tie that in the next couple of days with the youth about what was going on. So every day we had a few more. But I said, I want more to come to the program. So I went up to the schools about Wednesday and just really out in the community talking to people. And one of the people that was working at the IMC for the week, Tanya, she said, hey, why don't you go to collaborate with some other organizations that already have youth there, like the Urban, Neighborhood Center on Main Street. So I said, okay. Drove over there after the program, got a chance to meet with the director and people there, and I was there for the next day or so doing workshops, 2 different workshops. So for a few hours there, doing the workshops there because they had time off Friday, so did it early, and I was so excited to do it there. And I even got a chance to do it with youth that were even younger, so 6 years of age. So it was a great experience. I wrote the grant initially for I think about $5,000. I got $2,000. So next time I get a grant, I would love to even do more and do a one-day festival. My dream is to do a one-day festival, bring in some of my dynamic artist friends and pay them from Chicago, come down for the day, do a whole concert for them, and workshops first, then a concert, close out, go back, and just to do that. So thank you for allowing me to express myself, to speak life into the children so they could speak life on paper, expression, some rap, some sang. Really great poetry that came out of it, spoken word and songs and lyrics to let them know their voice can be heard in a sacred space. So I had a great time. Hope to do it again or do something on a different scale, a bigger scale. And yes, thank you so much.
You can't ask her questions here, but if you have any, I can take note, and I'm happy to pass them along to her.
Do you know if she has plans for further?
Yes. So
Projects like
she,
this?
I think I've witnessed her do workshops before, and I know that she is currently out of town, but is planning to return back to Champaign-Urbana and hopes to continue to do more workshops like this one with youth. I've witnessed her do workshops with college students, having worked at the U of I a number of times. I even had the experience of hiring her to do a poetry performance and workshop when I was in my old position.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that she's really interested in connecting more with youth, too.
Great. It's a good resource to have. Yeah, Eric.
So we've been, the city, the city has been at public arts for a number of years. Have we ever tried to do any follow-up polling or interviewing with people who participated, as students, as participants in workshops, to get some sort of a sense of how much difference this made to them? I have a feeling there are some really powerful stories there, and I think it would be very good to begin to document some of those and archive some of those and have some of those to share with the community.
Yeah, I think some individual projects have done that on their own, but I don't know that we've done it as a procedure. So.
I think And I can actually speak in this respect as wearing a grantee hat from years past. I know when I worked with Christina, I think was granted and worked with 3 different public arts coordinators. But Christina actually had a checklist for grantees. I mentioned in our orientation with grantees that I'd like to offer something similar. So far, and it's only been a month in, we've already had a couple of projects be completed. Derek's one of them, for instance. It didn't get out in time for those, but I am hoping to include some of those things. I come again, from having been in a space where we do really intentional evaluation of programs, both qualitative and quantitative at the university, and I think that should be done here. It's exciting opportunities for reviews. In preparing the annual report today, I have been on an ongoing basis soliciting feedback or reviews of the program. So I have some quotes, qualitative kind of quotes of that nature in today's presentation, but I look forward to doing that more often, and especially as you've indicated, Eric, with some of the youth participants, for example. That would take, a different type of effort and connection with the people who've attended programs, but certainly can happen.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd really love to know is, like, somebody went through a program 7 years ago.
Yes.
How did that impact their lives?
I want to know that too. And we're in this 10-year anniversary. I think it's it's a moment, I think, for doing a lot of that work. So I would like to do that.
Okay, well, I think we'll go ahead then with the monthly progress report, which is going to have several parts today.
That's a few parts. But we'll start with the report. So you have a copy of the staff report, hopefully. This is your May report. I'm going to begin by just giving a quick reflection about our sneak peek event and thank those of you who were able to be in attendance, Barbara, Patricia, and Janelle. This, again, occurred on April 26th from 5:30 to 7:30, and it also featured a performance by Melvin Knight in the Amber Sky, which was really wonderful. My only thought for next year, so a couple of things that I wanted to reflect upon. I think it was wonderful to have a change of venue because not only is Pizza M not available in the same way, but it certainly is a smaller space. And in years past, as a grantee, I always felt that it was sort of a private event. And I think it was really fun to market it as an artist mingle. We had people in attendance that weren't grantees that just came to kind of meet and convene with others. I'd like to continue to grow it in that way. Broadway Food Hall has a few challenges as a venue for sound and some other issues, so we'll probably be exploring some other venues for next year, but I'd love to continue the grant celebration as a sneak peek featurette of what's to come for the art scene. I think that worked really well. Art Now this month features Pritika Rajgaria. She's an MFA candidate, actually just completed her degree this weekend. She's graduating. And she is a mixed media artist. She began as a painter and kind of has gotten way more into textiles and sculptural work. So she is going to be featured on our UPTV. It started this week, actually, every Monday with reruns on Tuesday, and is also available on YouTube. Boneyard Arts Festival wrapped up. It was, of course, the second weekend in April, and it broke a record with 42 registered venues in the city of Urbana. I didn't bring it up here, but if you want to pass along the Boneyard guide, you can see all the list of venues that were in Urbana this year, many of which were very new to the Boneyard listing. For us, on Saturday, April 14th, from 1 to 5, we had Urbana Celebrates the Boneyard, our family-friendly arts event for Boneyard Arts Festival. This was a great success. We reached roughly 300 people. The event featured live music from Dance Music Therapy, as well as magic and flow arts from Michael Moxie and Satina, puppetry from Puppet Folk Productions, which is Ann Newman's puppet company, and then face painting from Whimsy Pixie Paint and a bubble display from Joyful Bubbles, as you can see here in the picture. Joyful Bubbles has become kind of a staple of this event. Goes over very well with the children. We also had art stations featuring arts and crafts. Urbana Park District offered an art station with paper crafts. We also had the Independent Media Center's zine librarians making an Art in Urbana zine. And we also had our visioning going on through the arts and through drawing at a table with the City of Urbana staff to talk what I'll talk a little bit later about with just what's in your square. And we had our own fish printing, which if anybody came last year, you'll remember. Dragonfire Pizza and Nitro Cup also came and offered food and drink. Artists of the Corridor, you'll notice Dodie Buzzard's work when you walked in was still on display. This comes down in a couple of days, so if you didn't get a chance, please take a look at her work. The Story of My Life was another one of the Boneyard Arts Festival events that we contributed to the festival this year. Dodie Buzzard's a 99-year-old watercolorist, and she also turned 99 during her art opening. Technically, it was the day before, but we had her art opening reception as a celebration of her. And beyond just the public, we also had a van of 14 residents from Clark Lindsay who came to support her for that. I'm excited to announce our next Artist of the Corridor is Durango Mendoza. He's a photographer, but also does what he calls assemblages, sculptures. He'll have a collection of photography and assemblages on display here at City Hall and also at the Urbana Free Library. He is going to be also offering a workshop. So first, his opening reception will take place on next Tuesday from 4:30 to 6. I know all of you received an invitation from me already, but I hope you'll be able to make it out. And he'll also be offering this sculpture workshop. It will be for people 12 years old and up, and we're providing the materials, the library and Durango, and we're able to also have a registration through the Urbana Free Library's website. So if you know anyone who's interested in coming, share that with them. It's right on the Urbana Free Library's event calendar. You can click an event and then register. His closing reception will be on June 30th from 4 to 5 p.m. and will feature an artist talk, demonstration, and refreshments. We've had a lot of interest in Artists of the Corridor. And with artists wanting to sort of follow this trend of maybe doing slightly shorter exhibition times. So you'll notice he's up for roughly 2 months rather than 3. Dodie wanted to be up for about a month and a half. So we're just going with the flow and seeing how it will allow us to maybe feature some more folks. Next up, I just want to mention Art in the Square was our third event as part of Boneyard Arts Festival. We had Los Guapos performing at Market in the Square. That's been our effort to bring the art at the market, which is at our outdoor farmers market indoors. And then in partnership, we are with the Urbana Market at the Square. We're also excited to announce the first of many Art at the Markets. This Saturday from 8 to noon, we'll have Coop Adventure Play offering a kind of creative raw material, build your own playscape for youth. And then we'll have Timbaloo Live Salsa Band with us performing on the stage. We are including a stage, so that'll be exciting. Please come out and see it. Again, these are every second Saturday of the month and will feature some sort of creative workshop and a performance. Young Artist Studio this past month featured local Navajo artist Beverly Smith doing a storytelling and a opportunity to take your own stories and to make drawings that could be wearable. So we had these workshops have been really well attended. This is a partnership with the Urbana Free Library and particularly the Children's Department. Our next one is called the Imagination Station, and youth will write their own stories, and they'll be bookbinding, kind of learning some DIY bookbinding with Nika Lux, local artist. And that one's coming up here on May 20th. It'll will be again in the lower level at 3 p.m. This is a new exciting opportunity. The Illinois Shakespeare Festival approached the public arts program to offer a free performance as long as we booked a park for it and assisted with some marketing. So this performance is called Double Double. We've scheduled it for July 5th at 10 a.m. It's interestingly, it's a performance about Abraham Lincoln that sort of imagines that he was best buds with William Shakespeare and how that they sort of influenced each other's humility and compassion and some of the qualities that make us wonderful human beings. So it'll be at 10 a.m. We chose Carl Park because of the Lincoln statue being a gathering point. So we're excited about this. I think in some ways it raises some fun questions about what other kinds of collaborations we can do, potentially with the Park District to do things like performances in the park as an ongoing series of sorts. So we'll see how that goes, and I hope you bring the family out if you can. One other exciting development, of course, is that we're heading into our Urbana Sculpture Project time. We partner with the Public Art League in town to both solicit and select sculptures that will be here in the Urbana community. We currently have a call for artists up and on display on the Public Art League's website. There's a link here in your staff report, and the deadline for submission is June 1st. I've shared this around on our social media pages, but if there's other ideas of where we can share this, it's a national call, but it's also really nice to get a lot of local people submitting, any of our local sculpture artists. But there's more information on their website, and interested artists should give Public Art League an email to express interest. I'm going to take a moment to just show you a video about What's in Your Square. Many of you may have heard about this already. What's in Your Square is a mayoral initiative to kind of look at what imaginings and creativity does the Urbana community have to think through the 9-block area that includes city-owned parking, the hotel, and Lincoln Square Mall currently. This is wonderful real estate in this area, and to kind of think about what do we want to see here. So I'm going to share with you a brief video, and then I'm also going to say that next month, one of the things that's been happening, and it's largely led through our planning department, we have a number of visioning kind of meetings happening with key groups. The Public Arts Commission, of course, is one of those key groups. So my hope is to have them with us next month to do some visioning with you as a group to talk about what's in your square. But let me play this video.
Look around the community. Everything you see started as someone's idea. So today, we're inviting you to start something big in downtown Urbana. So tell us what you'd like to see and do in downtown Urbana, in the area known as Lincoln Square. How would you transform the 9 square blocks into something that will serve our community going forward? Bold projects start with big ideas and a vision for the future. So tell us, what's in your square? We're listening.
So apart from a visioning process next month, I do want to make note that the website for What's in Your Square, which can be, I checked it out, it's one of, I think it's the first or second hit when you Google it, but it's currently has a survey available. So in preparation for next month, if you want to take a moment and take that survey as well, that would be wonderful. And again, this is just an image of the area that we're dreaming about. Okay, moving right along, I want to mention the Urbana Art Expo. You might remember when we were talking, it seems like it was just yesterday, we were talking about the Urbana Art Expo, but it's actually time to begin planning that again. All this to say, we have already secured now multi-days, which has been a request from artists, September 14th through the 16th in 2018, so this upcoming fall. And what I would like to ask, and you can come see me after the meeting, but I'd love to get a sense of who'd like to continue to work with that or who's interested in any of these projects, not simply the Urbana Art Expo, but we'd love to have commissioners volunteering to be a part of some of the planning of these different events and initiatives that we have through the arts program. So if I report on one each month and you're thinking, I'd really love to be a part of that and I haven't yet, this is your opportunity. I'm going to ask you to either email me after the meeting, come talk to me. I'd love to get you involved. But I'm excited to plan the Art Expo. And when I said we booked it, I mean we booked the Urbana Civic Center as the space and location for next year. I just want to give a brief social media marketing report. We haven't seen any substantial increase in Twitter, but Facebook and Instagram are like skyrocketing. So we've had a 45 increase since last month in Facebook, but Instagram has seen a 103 increase. I'm going to attribute this to two things. One, I've had an intern that's been working a lot with Instagram, and she did probably the most important task, which was to show me how on my phone I can have 2 accounts under one phone, which means now I can Instagram all the time when I'm out at events and stuff like that. And I did that quite a bit with the Urbana Celebrates the Boneyard event, you'll see, and we also did a feature of each grantee so far. That's also been, if you follow us on Facebook and Twitter, you've seen across all platforms we've had a different feature. And we've been able to schedule those out So that means on a rolling basis, every couple days, we've had a new grantee featured for the arts program, which is really nice. Again, encouraging the hashtag Art in Urbana. I've also been using things like Urbana Public Arts, hashtag Art Thrives. So please do that as well if you are posting about the public arts program. I also want to acknowledge that while short and sweet, I introduced her last month and she's already headed out. Our intern Madeline Talbert from the College of Media James Scholars Program completed her internship this past Friday. I have a few slides just about her project and what she accomplished, so I'll go forward with that. She created these slides. So these are some things that she did during her internship. She did some flyering for the public arts program, particularly around Urbana Celebrates the Boneyard, Art in the Square, and Artists of the Corridor. She took flyers around the downtown area and campus, and some in downtown Champaign. She utilized Instagram and Twitter to spread the word about upcoming events. And she created an Instagram story to promote Urbana Celebrates the Boneyard and Art in the Square. I don't normally use story features, so that was pretty nice. She also created a geo-filter, which I don't think many people used, but we have it for next year now, and we can continue to use it every year. But a geo-filter, if anybody uses Snapchat, you can actually make, it's like a picture frame that says Urbana Celebrates the Boneyard, and any pictures that you take at the event, you could frame it around our filter. And our filter comes up if you're in the geographical location of the event. So that's kind of cool. She also streamlined Instagram in probably the way that I explained to you, showing me that I can use it on my phone, but she also made a lot of things a little bit easier for our social media. Again, we've seen an increase in all these things, and we did features about the grantees. A couple of our other projects here, you see a funny photo of, you might have noticed during Boneyard that we put up the bone garland all over downtown Urbana, which came incredibly tangled this year. So we spent a good amount of time just untangling it. So this is the Boneyard Committee plus the intern Maddie untangling. We hung art with Artists of the Corridors. She helped hang at the Urbana Free Library and also labeled Dodie Buzzard's artwork. It's not always the case that the Urbana Public Arts Program hangs art. A lot of times the artist does that, but when your artist is 99 years old, you hang it for her. So that's what we did. We decorated Main Street, helped set up Art in the Market, and emailed contacts to spread the word about Urbana Celebrates the Boneyard. She also helped me organize a lot of contacts. Lillian did that as well, the intern that we had through Illinois Arts Council's Youth Employment Grant. But both have really made great strides in helping solicit school district contacts and new contacts for parent groups in the area, homeschool organizations, so that we can reach out to more elementary age students in the area. And last but not least, we continue to look for volunteers. I mentioned you as commissioners, but anyone listening, we're always looking for new volunteers for the public arts program, and we have a right on our website, we have a place to sign up. I also have the privilege of saying we have finally wrapped up everything for Open Scene. We received our last check from the National Endowment of the Arts. We were able to make our last payment from that out to the Urbana-Champaign Independent Media Center. And while this is sort of wrapped up in terms of the grant, I also want to acknowledge that we are in conversations with the Independent Media Center, which has, still had tremendous programming, continued to do programming around the branding of Open Scene. But we've been talking about how we can kind of carry that brand forward. And one of the things that we've come up with is doing a series of Open Scene open mics. Which will be sort of open mics hosted by participants in Open Scene, but will be in the downtown area, and will also be facilitated by the Public Arts Program and Independent Media Center together. And we'll have them in different locations too, to continue to push upon this dream of really encouraging the downtown, that Open Scene really becomes known in the downtown area. With that in mind, I want to show you the Open Scene recap video that you haven't seen yet as a commission.
Art has a great way of opening people up and getting them to just kind of relax and enjoy each other and have fun. Immediately, you can kind of feel the magic working on people.
On the surface, it was a hip-hop workshop, and it was a theater workshop, and it was a storytelling workshop, and it was a music-making workshop. But deeper than that, it was also different aspects of those art forms.
it is important to create this space, what Open Scene is doing right now, just to come and express yourself, like to have a safe space where, you know, no one is looking at you any differently for how you dress or what your hair looks like or, you know, what kind of art you produce.
I've learned how to like get myself out there and communicate with people and learn how to become more of a people person, I guess.
It's just really kind of community-based and, you know, has all these different values and comes from these backgrounds that are similar to mine. And I just thought that was very just amazing of them to just, you know, be able to teach us and whatnot.
It was about hearing each other's stories and hearing what people were passionate about and turning that into art.
You know, I think that youth need more spaces in our community. They need more spaces to just be.
You're like, I don't really know, you know, if that's my type of place, but once you step inside, it's a whole nother world, so.
Da da da, ba da dum da da dum da no, da dum 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 dum.
Well, music.
Sweetie da 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 dum da dum ba.
I'm going to take a pause here and say that that is the end officially of my staff report. So if you have any questions or comments.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a place where we can, I forget if it was placed somewhere where we could see sort of all the information about Open Scene, like who was there at each work, not for each workshop, but just sort of the overall sort of numbers?
Yes. So I think that the best place I would say is actually the IMC's website and not the arts program's website, only because one of the core coordinators of Open Scene, Blair Smith, also did a wonderful job of writing a recap blog about the entire experience. So we handled the video, they handled a blog, and it really goes over every individual artist, what they did during the day, the schedule, and some of the outcomes. So it's a really nice reflection. I believe it's ucimc.org, maybe /Open Scene, but don't quote me.
But you could probably find it from their website.
Yeah.
Or even like maybe IMC Open Scene Reflection. I think it's literally called Reflection. Other questions? Excitement about performance in the park, maybe? Hope you can come out for that too. I'm going to jump right into the annual report if there's no questions. I prepared an extensive report. So I think what I'll say is that for the sake of time, I will go somewhat quickly. Does that sound okay? And what I had planned to do is create this into sort of a PDF that would be readable and perhaps even have a couple of printed copies that we can have available. So I'll shoot for doing that next month at the meeting and sharing what I have then too. And there's actually some things I'd like to add, so you might see some new things next month added to it. Oh, and I've got these lengthy transitions. I'll probably go through them a little fast. So again, one thing to acknowledge is that the Urbana Public Arts Program is celebrating its 10th anniversary, which is really exciting for us. It's the arts program's mission is to foster a city where all residents can engage in the arts and where artists can thrive and feel valued. We have a 9-member advisory commission, and I have here in what will be in a printed report kind of a reflection from me as the coordinator, talking a little bit about some of the new programs, programs that we sustain, some visions for what we'd like to see, and kind of thinking about the impacts that we've had over the past 10 years and this past year. I won't read that. Here you all are. So I'm really excited to see your faces, our Arts Commission. and to think about the ways that each of you brings such unique talents and areas of expertise to the program. I want to also just take a minute to think about why we support public art, because it's more than things like beautification of a city. It's even perhaps more than creative placemaking. But when we think about this, a lot of the, I've gathered some research that I'll allude to here too, but we really think about three things: so creativity and innovation, community connection, and economic development. In other words, the arts bring solution, the arts create cultural connection, and the arts means business. So in that vein, we see the arts as encouraging innovation that solves local problems. There's a deep relationship between the arts and sciences that I really want to encourage through our arts program and really move from STEM to STEAM. And then fuel new businesses and enterprises in our downtown area. We see that the arts allow for development of a collective identity in an area. They bring people together who may not otherwise interact. They build social networks and communicate ideas across difference. I used to say this a lot in my old position, that the arts are kind of a language that we all speak. So even when I was working in a non-arts organization, I would frequently bring artists. And the reason being is that sometimes there's things that can be only communicated through art. That language or cultural difference or things get in the way when we try to communicate outside of arts. So it is really a bridge builder in that sense. Of course, it creates also community pride and an awareness of diversity, cultural learning, and free expression. We also see that it brings creative jobs to cities and drives tourism and tourist spending, and creates a sort of growth economy and revitalization. It frequently has a ripple effect, and this is sort of thinking about the spending around the arts as sort of a dinner in the show sort of model, where if we create more opportunities that bring people together to see the arts, they'll stay in our downtown, they hang out in our downtown areas. This comes from a local artist, Elizabeth Simpson, who's been a past grantee and is the owner of a creative intervention agency. She says, "This program has made so many beautiful things happen by supporting and leveraging local artists, and in doing so has really enriched our community." I want to acknowledge our intern staff of this past year, of course, really without anything but balloons and celebrations. Morgan White, who stepped in and really served as an integral coordinator for the program for many months. I also want to acknowledge Lillian Meng, who was our intern through the Summer Youth Employment Opportunity. And then both Samantha and Maddie have come to us through the Community Learning Lab, which when I get to the partners, I'll share a little bit more about that. Our 2017-2018 accomplishments, I just wanted to kind of acknowledge a few things that have really happened over this past year. This is, from records, I could tell that this is the year that we funded more Urbana Arts grants than any other year. We've added an Art in the Square partnership with Urbana Business Association that's allowed us to expand into the farmers market and have art performances and workshops year-round. We have more creative sector diversity on Art Now, so that means that we went many years with largely having visual artists on Art Now, but this past year we've had more musicians, we've got DJs, we've got theater makers, quite a number of different kinds of artists, and we want to continue to kind of grow in that scope. Our next month's artist is going to be a dancer, and the one after that's a poet. So we have quite a number of different artistic styles being showcased. We added receptions and artist talks at the Urbana Free Library, so that as part of Artists of the Corridor, that partnership really invites that we have an event here at the city and the library has their own event. And it's really been a wonderful partnership. They've turned into sort of these family-friendly arts receptions. So we've had like artist show and tells and things of that nature. Art Now also won a Best in the Midwest Media Fest award, which was really wonderful. And you might have noticed when you came in on the screen, Jason Liggett, who puts together Art Now, was also invited to be a guest speaker or featured speaker at that same festival this year. And of course, we received our National Endowment of the Arts grant to fund Open Scene and continue to work on that project. And we received our Illinois Arts Council grant. So I'm going to go over this because this is, I'm going to go through this a little fast. So you know a lot about our programs already. I highlighted a few, and they're just what I had just spoken about, that these are ones where we've maybe added some things or tried to improve them this year. So Art in the Square, Artists of the Corridor exhibits have changed a little bit. Open Scene, we hope to continue and draw forward. And then Young Artist Studio is a partnership with the Urbana Free Library's Children's Department to offer those ongoing arts workshops and performance in the park with this first one, just kind of see how that goes. And we can see if it's something that we want to continue. I just want to kind of acknowledge the diversity of artistic styles we've had at the dual site exhibitions of Artists of the Corridor. Work by Rusty Clevenger's students, Fred Delcomen's photography, Laura and Jill Miller doing textile art with batiks and print, Lydia Puticombe's wood carving, Dodie Buzzard's watercolor, and Durango Mendoza's assemblages is coming right up. And as you know, the Arts Grant Program is really, I think, what gives us a lot of acknowledgement in the community, more so than any other program. We're known as a grant program. To date, we've funded 260 projects over the last few years, beginning in 2009. Projects like Heartland Maker Fest, I'm going to go through these quickly, like our Folk and Roots Festival, like our Asian Heritage Month Asia Fest, which was actually 2 weekends ago, Midwest Mendang, Urbana First Fridays, Matsuri Festival. And this comes from actually the co-organizer of Midwest Mendang. Such a wonderful and important program supporting the arts of all types in our community. It is through the support, this is of the Urbana Public Arts Program, via the grant program that we're able to start and continue running Midwest Mendang, Urbana's annual West African Drum and Dance Festival. What's really exciting about that festival too is it's actually known as the regional Midwest, not even necessarily Midwest, but the regional United States West African Drum and Dance Festival. Arts in the schools, of course, we've actually reached 8 schools, and that is out of 10 in the area in the district, so that's 80% of the schools have been reached. I did total up from the numbers that were reported in final reports, and if they said they reached the entire school, I took school numbers, and that roughly is 3,950 students through the Urbana School District 116 participants since 2014. And there's just some pictures of art in the schools. These are our 3 that we funded this year. Again, Derek Lindsay, the Capoeira Angola Center, and Roberta Westerman. I'm also excited to just sort of acknowledge that these 2 represent real diversity in the creative sectors that are represented. We have music making and recording. We've got dance performance, dance martial arts, Afro-Brazilian dance martial arts performance. And then we have Outdoor Arts Classroom, which is largely a landscape architecture and environmental arts project, one that we see, I think, a little more infrequently with the arts program. It provides many outlets for art in the community. I found it to be a great way to network and reach a broader audience. This comes from one of our participants in the Young Artist Studio project this year. Again, 90 episodes have been made to date of Art Now, and we know that each features a different artist. These are 15-minute long. The award that it won was an Achievement Award winner for short film documentary featurette in a professional category, and that was at the 5th annual Best of the Midwest Media Fest. As a council member, I worked for 7 years with a number of amazing local arts advocates and artists to launch a local public arts program that directly funds artists and their work. For the amount of money it takes to pave one road, we can make dozens of local projects blossom. I'm grateful for those who have served on the task force, the commission, and as public arts coordinators over the years. And this comes from Danielle Chenoweth, who many of you maybe worked with to collaborate on this initiative.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Jason Finkelman's wife was on that.
Cynthia Oliver, too. I know. I looked at that list of names. I was like, this is a stellar group. So sculptures and murals. We've actually been able to install 18 sculptures and 12 murals in the city since the inceptions of the Urbana Sculpture Project and Murals on Glass. And I want to just take a moment to talk a little bit about the partnerships that I've been witness to, and I want to acknowledge that, you know, there's probably been partnerships in our past that aren't so much a part of our present, but that have been really important that I can want to hope that we'll return to and continue to grow. But we work really collaboratively with the 40 North Champaign County Arts Council, with the Urbana Park District, with the IMC, with the Urbana School District, the Urbana Free Library, the Business Association, the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies, which also donates $500 towards our arts grant program and has for a number of years now. Urbana's Market at the Square, the Public Television, School of Art and Design at the University of Illinois, Parkland Garrett's Gallery, Spurlock Museum. These three also, largely the partnership has been to really solicit collaboration and have me come and speak about our arts program and get their students involved. And so they've put me on sort of lecture things. We did grant presentations there, and there's been more opportunities for getting their students involved in the things that we're doing. And then, of course, the Public Art League for our sculpture project, and the Community Learning Lab, which has now become a wonderful partner, kind of offering to keep the public arts program as a site for undergraduate students who are either doing a completion of their honors requirement through community service hours and an internship hours, essentially, and then also students who want internship placement in exchange for a different kind of class credit. And that's been made possible through that lab. It began in the School of Social Work at the University of Illinois and is now broadened and serves lots of departments. If you are tallying, you'll notice that both of the students that we've had this year come from the College of Media. So we attract College of Media students, apparently. But that's most of the presentation. I just wanted to give you a little taste of the things that we're going to be talking about with the annual report, and I'll have a printed document to you next month. Any questions?
Very nice. Thank you.
Do you have a deadline for when you want us to send you our bios?
I do want to include your bios in the book. That's why I asked you all for them. Maybe within 2 weeks. Does that work? Wonderful. Okay. I'm going to actually pass it over to who's next? Actually, Mayor Marlin.
Her Honor.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi. Good to see you here.
Thanks for having me here. I love this view. So I'm here to talk about a few things. I did want to follow up with a quick comment on what's in your square, which you'll be seeing more of next month. The purpose of this whole effort is to really build on what's thriving at Lincoln Square site and position this area to service for the next 25 to 50 years. The site that we're talking about is 9 square blocks, about 16 acres. You, the public, own over half of that real estate in all the parking lots, surface parking that is there, and the public has made substantial investment in both the Lincoln Square Mall and, over the years, the hotel. The reason we're embarking on this project now is well, there's several reasons behind it. One is that as I was campaigning and knocking on doors throughout the community, the subject that came up probably more often than anything else was what's going to happen at Lincoln Square? What are you going to do about the hotel? Why is there so much parking over there? How do we make this place come alive like people remember it from the old days? We're never going back to the old days, and again, there are many thriving businesses and services there now. But what we want to do is make sure we're utilizing the potential of this space. And so that came up over and over and over again. So we decided we'd embark on this visioning effort, ask people, what else do you want to see there? What would make it even more vibrant? What would bring you there more often? What would bring more people there? We're also at a crossroads. The MCOR construction projects that's rebuilding Green Street, the final phase of that will completely reconstruct Green Street between Lincoln Avenue and Race Street. That means Green Street will become the main connecting artery between campus and our downtown, and it will bring people directly, literally, to the doorstep of this 9 square block site. So we need to make sure we have a really do as much as we can with this entire site to draw people there, to support the businesses that are there, and to build on what we have there. We also have a hotel that's closed and for sale, so that's another reason that we need to be thinking about the long-term future of the site as a whole. So I thought the best way to start for that, especially to think about the publicly owned space and what we're going to do with that, is to ask people, ask the city of Urbana, the residents of Urbana and beyond, and people aren't shy about sharing their opinions. So that's why there's a survey. We just want to ask people, what would you like to see there and do there, and if there's something not there now, what should it be? So that's the meaning behind this, and we've been, working with the other owners of the properties there are 3 owners involved in this property, and we'll be in a collaborative relationship we are in a cooperative relationship with both of the other owners. So that's what's behind this effort, and I hope you all have fun participating. Okay, so the reason I'm here tonight. First of all, it's Public Service Recognition Week. We read a proclamation at the City Council meeting last night, so I wanted to thank all of you, board and commission members who are serving as volunteers for our community. Thank you. This is your week. City Council members who are paid a little bit, thank you for your service. Staff members who are paid a little bit more, thank you for your service. But together, it takes a community effort to do the sorts of things that you're doing, so I truly appreciate that. A little bit of context for what I'm about to say. And it's important as community members. We're in budget. We're in the process of drafting our proposed budget right now, and as you probably heard, the City of Urbana is facing some serious budget challenges. Our financial forecast was released a few months ago. As you know, we are dealing with a structural budget deficit, and we have a plan to deal with that. We have to restore adequate funding to our police and fire pensions, and we're embarking on a plan for that, and we need to rebuild city reserves back to where they need to be to meet our minimum financial policies. So over the next 5 years, we're looking at having to increase revenues or reducing expenses, possibly by close to $2.5 million. The farther out you get, the less certain it becomes, but this coming budget year, we're looking at an overall reduction of about $500,000. So we're making some very, very careful decisions and some very strategic actions, and we'll be releasing the budget actually on May 21st, the proposed budget anyway. But that's the context for why I'm here. We need to continue and do the best we can to use our city resources, which is both staff time and funds, as efficiently and effectively as we can, so we can continue to offer programs and services like the Public Arts Program. This is a very important part of what we do as a city, and I know the community values it a lot. So to that end, we've been looking at things like combining some of the boards, a couple of the boards that have overlapping members and overlapping duties, so we're looking at the Design Review Board and another review board. We folded the Cable TV Commission, which doesn't really it's kind of outlived its purpose, into the UPTV Commission. So we're looking at how to become more effective that way in terms of our numbers of our boards and commissions. Don't worry, Public Arts Commission is fine. You're no changes there. And at the same time, and it's a good thing, is we're seeing there's an increasing number of events and festivals and things happening in the city, and a lot of those are as a direct result of what you guys are doing and what other people are bringing to us. And we're also have an increasing recognition of the importance of celebrating our international community and the importance of our immigrant community and in our city. About 20% of our residents are born in a different country, and the international community, as you know, enriches the city of Urbana and Champaign and the surrounding area immeasurably. So it's a very important part of our character, identity, and economy. So this all is leading to where I'm getting there. Part of the citywide effort for us to be effective stewards of our time and resources and to deal with these increasing numbers of requests for funding various events and activities, I'm coming to ask for your help as the Public Arts Commission. I've been in office about a year, It's been a continuous learning experience, and one of the things I've learned is that there's there's been kind of a haphazard approach to funding events and how we handled requests for funding events. Some people would come straight to the mayor's office and they'd show up at my door and say, well, last year you gave us blank, and last year you gave us this, and I'm like, what? And they were used to coming directly to the mayor's office. Other people would go to the chief of staff and work through there. Other people would come to city council and request funding for certain festivals and events. And I just felt that in an effort to treat people fairly and consistently and to actually evaluate, how we're spending our resources and kind of get organized. I like to be organized. So I thought it would be great if we could pull together these various requests into and under the umbrella of an entity who could evaluate them similar to the way you evaluate your requests for public arts grants. I thought the model you guys have going here is a pretty good one as far as, evaluating these requests. So I'm asking that you consider coordinating the process for funding events like we have Folk and Roots, we have Pygmalion, we have part of the Sweet Corn Festival, we have Urbana First Fridays, we have the Illinois Marathon, we have the IHSA wrestling tournament. There's a gamut of events and activities that are very, very important to our community. All of them come to various people in the city asking for funding year after year. Some of them come before city council year after year, and I just thought it would be better to organize this all in one umbrella, one place, in order to consider these requests. So I've asked Rachel, Public Arts Program, to take this on. So I'm not sure exactly how the commission plays into this, but Rachel will figure that out, right? So, ultimately the city council will still decide the funding, it will still be part of the budget. It's just that the process will be a little bit more organized so that the public knows who they should be talking to. That's the other thing, people are not sure who they should be talking to, and sometimes it's a different person every year, and sometimes they get a different answer every year, and this just makes it a more straightforward process. So these things have all been funded for this coming year in this current way we do it, but this would be looking ahead to fiscal year 20. We're already planning for fiscal year 19. The other thing that I would ask this commission to consider, and this will be not a decision to make tonight by any means, but something that I would ask you to consider would be to expanding the scope of the Public Arts Commission on your 10th anniversary now to public arts and culture, to officially recognize and celebrate the role that in the connection between arts and culture. And really, when you look at the grants that you already give and everything that artists do, you are really celebrating cultures from around the world as well as the arts. And so I think it's a logical, to me it looked like a logical expansion to really officially recognize the role of arts and culture in our community. And that's something I would just ask for you to discuss over the coming months and see if it's something you think that you could do. So it'd be just, I guess, an opportunity to broaden the mission. We can't guarantee any more funding, but it would kind of reflect what you're already doing, but really officially celebrate the role of our international residents and what they bring to this community. And I think I think the Sweet Corn Festival, for example, was a great example of this last year. The focus of the festival, the types of activities, really started to shift to a broader focus. And I'd love to see us use our signature festival, the Sweet Corn Festival, to celebrate our international flavor. And that's really what contributes to the unique character of one of the things that makes Urbana such a special place to live. So. But I can see every festival reflecting that aspect as well. So This is the starting point for the conversation, and it'll involve conversation and discussion and see what you think. But I would appreciate if you'd consider that. And Rachel and Brandon will kind of lead the charge on that. Questions? Thanks.
Did anyone have any questions or comments? Go ahead.
I'm sure we're honored and humbled.
It's nice to be on this side of the microphone once in a while. Thanks again for all you do. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks for coming and waiting.
Okay, I believe next we are moving to considering the budget.
All right. Oh, you want me to? From right here, because I don't have a presentation for you all. So.
Well, why not?
Because it's included in your packet. So, in relation to what the mayor was just saying about the future of the program, and the city's current financial situation, the packet includes a proposal for a status quo budget. This would be effectively the same budget we've had the last 4 years. There is an alternation in the amount of funding that's either put towards our Murals on Glass program or our Urbana Sculpture project. And so 2 years ago, we were fortunate to have received a donation from Jack and Ginny Waller in the amount of $2,000. And so we're back to our base level of funding for the Urbana Sculpture project. So that means our total arts program budget for the upcoming fiscal year, which starts on July 1st, would be $68,516. As you can see, that's very close to what we've had in prior years. But we would also be seeking to add in that additional $50,500, and that represents the total funding from the events the mayor mentioned. So the Sweet Corn Festival, Pygmalion Festival, CU Folk and Roots Festival, the CU Marathon, and what was contributed to Imbibe's Urbana First Fridays. And just to clarify, the Folk and Roots Festival and Imbibe Urbana both received separate public arts grants through this program, which I think when possible, we've informed the jury that they've also received money, and then we've informed the council that when a recipient has already received public arts funding, but the two programs don't really talk to one another. So that's another benefit potentially of combining the programs is there's only going to be one place to apply.
Right.
But as the mayor was alluded to, we've already effectively, council's already entered into the agreements with the majority of those groups. So for the coming fiscal year, 2019, because these are predominantly fall and summer festivals.
This fiscal year, or fiscal year 2019 starts July 1, right?
It starts on July 1st, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Sweet Corn Festival is like about to happen. And festival organizers need to know that information well in advance. So internally we've been aware of this this desire, I guess, to improve how we do festival funding. So that actually started with us taking requests that happened sort of spread out in time and kind of randomly, and we've slowly aligned them to the point where they all happen at once. And we found that the best time of year, or the soonest we were able to make that happen was, I think, about February of this year. So we were able to get all of those funding requests handled, committed for next year. So that gives the arts program time to consider the mayor's proposal and to sync up the special events requests with the regular arts grant program. And ideally we'll be, rolling something out, making a decision by the fall of this year for proposals that would be funded in 2020, which start July 1st of 2019. So we'll have calendars and things to help you visualize all that, but like the fiscal year budget process can be a little confusing. So this request is to go ahead and move that money under the public arts program within the city budget. So it's sort of a first step, but the reins aren't really being given fully to the arts program yet because of the nature of how these requests happen. We needed to have responded to those requests by now. So I hope that makes sense. So the total recommended funding for the arts program would be $119,000 in 16. And that might actually go up a little because there's a couple other small funding that the city gives to events, and we're just going to have to determine internally which are going to fit for this for the arts program versus some things might need to stay in the city budget. But that'll be subject to the conversation that we're having as we move forward. So are there any questions on that? And there's a couple other points I want to make too, but I'm happy to answer questions.
I'm just curious the effect on the staff. Is the staff going to have time, or are you going to have to increase her office staff to help manage everything?
Well,
I mean, I know she's Wonder Woman. We already we all recognize that, but there's a limit to your resources. I mean, you're already managing a lot. What is realistic in this case?
So
It sounds great in theory. I'm not poo-pooing it, but I'm just curious. What is the reality of, it's just you're basically you're handling it by yourself with an intern. Is that right?
no, that's not really accurate.
well, good.
The public arts program is part of the economic development division, so that's I'm the manager of the division, and there are 4 staff in that division.
So it
and we
can-
help each other out.
Yeah, I'm sure you
but,
have to.
I personally have been managing the special event agreements since, well, for the last 4 years. And the economic development division has always had involvement in preparing these, bringing them to council, negotiating the agreements, getting them sorted out with legal, all those steps that are involved.
So you've got a mechanism in place already.
Well, we have the mechanism that took it through the political process of approval by council, and then we have the public arts program over here. And so within the division, there's likely going to be efficiencies if we just roll it into one singular process, although the different kinds of funds may have different approval processes. The mayor stated that she would like to see the council still be making the formal decision on the funding for the festivals, right? So that would be a difference, a core difference for how our grants funding is issued. And this will also be an opportunity to have a very good conversation as a commission, and for Rachel to really raise some questions as the new arts coordinator about, well, why have we structured the grants program the way we have, and what opportunities do we have to improve upon that? And I think you're all going to have good ideas to share about how we might be able to change things and make them more efficient overall. So the goal would be for it to not create an additional burden on Rachel, on any public arts interns, and ideally to really kind of alleviate or just run things more efficiently within the division. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, well, whoops. I was just going to say that for me, it's been a conversation that I've wanted to have with the arts grantees, and I've invited at the orientations, of just letting me know more than just the informal feedback that I get. What are some things that come up for them regularly, especially if they've been funded for multiple years. So they're sort of repeat funders. What are some of the things that come up? We've had questions about, is this a seed grant program versus is this a sustaining program? Should we actually create a grant program, for instance, that actually makes that very explicit, that there's some funding that's here to fund projects that have a longer history or are intended to be sustained, or is this intended to be a project that a grant that eventually helps people find matching funds and sort of fly the coop eventually and have bigger funding sources. There's been questions around the time of year that the funds come out, and I mean, Derek brought that up tonight.
It
that
always comes up.
Right, it always comes up, and yet it's funny because they do have a full year to do it, so you could do it a different time of year. But it's a question that always comes up. So even just thinking about, like, how does it line up with school district times, with these kinds of times, and really thinking that through. In my observation, the grants program has gone through a couple of revisions in the past, and with both funds and categories and naming. I mean, I remember when the names got suddenly much more clear, and it was as a grantee, it was kind of nice. Like, oh, I know I'm applying for this, but at the same time, we've got questions that come up regularly now about, should I apply for a festival, or is this technically, should I do nonprofit? We're a group. Can I do group if I'm a nonprofit, or am I only allowed to do the nonprofit category? So there's always these sort of interesting overlaps that are kind of subject to individual interpretation that we could make more clear delineations for. So that's all I would add.
So I have one quick question. I was just curious, is this then, am I understanding correctly, that this might be a moment in time where both of the programs are evaluated? Or it's not clear to me if it's kind of like, we like the way the festival process works and maybe want to look at the grant program, or do we take the opportunity to look at both?
I think it's an opportunity to look at both with the idea of that we really kind of want to make it one process. And maybe in the same way we have categories and we have Arts in the Schools, which is handled a little differently from the rest of the grants programs, we can create similar differentiations and categories you know, amongst this program. So it really is increasing the amount of funding that the public arts program is distributing. It's adding another function to the public arts program because this is important, and as the mayor noted, there's a lot of requests for this. There's a lot of people in the community attend these festivals, and some of them are already coming to us. So it gives, you know, it's more. I think it's important work for the program to consider, and then I think kind of the larger topic. The other reason that review of both programs is warranted is that the idea that if the arts program were to take a deliberate focus as an arts and culture commission, and we're talking about going so far as renaming the commission, changing the mission statement, having a conversation about what would that look like, that also gives reason to reflect deliberately on how do we administer grants right now, and how do we distribute funds for festivals specifically, in order to encourage the kind of outcomes that are most consistent with, you know, with that mission statement that doesn't quite exist just yet. But so I know it's like kind of a lot of big ideas, but this is the start of the conversation.
I just want to add something. I think the other thing that I heard was the sense that the arts program, in comparison to the special events funding, has a really well-oiled, in some ways, transparent process for determining how those funds are distributed, and that's one of the reasons why we were approached. So it isn't necessarily that, I think, and maybe I'm hearing this wrong, that I heard in your question a kind of like, is it that the special events funding process is one that we'd want to look at for our program? I think it's the other way around, that we have sort of the juried process, the really sort of streamlined process, and that. And I mean, in my observation, it's also like there's a number of groups on that list are receiving funds from both. So what does that mean? And I also think of this list as like bigger festivals, and probably festivals that have history. So again, we're getting back to that like seed monies versus is this a sustaining grant program? I'm probably not even using the right language. This is an area too that I'm really excited to kind of grow in my experience with. I've been on funding boards. I've helped run grant programs, but I haven't had the experience of like really thinking through what is it that that really we want to see in place for something that is a seed project versus a sustaining grant for a project that has a longer history or that has a longer future potentially. So I've been on funding boards, for instance, where you apply for a 3-year-long project, or you apply for a 2-year, or if you get funded 1 year, you have a different application for year 2 if you apply again. So it's really like, I think in that sense, it's an opportunity for us to think through like, well, we've had these chronic questions come up. Maybe it's an opportunity for us to look at how we could reshape the program in which it's like helpful for everybody.
Yeah, you're right.
So one of the things that I heard the mayor say, I think I heard the mayor say, is that she wants to celebrate the international flavor of our community. And that resonated with me. A couple of the places where one sees performance art from elsewhere is the annual dinner of the Immigration Refugee Center, and people bring from their countries tremendous performances, and also in connection with the International Dinner at the Y. Now, those things could be, you know, elements of that could be integrated into what we do. There could be an integration between things that we fund in the public arts program and what happens at Sweet Corn Festival.
Yes.
And I don't know, and Folk and Roots. So I could see a lot of synergies in connecting the communities who are arts grantees and are and participants and performers in the larger festivals. So I think this is great. I mean, I was sort of a joke when I said I was sure we were honored and humbled, but actually it's true.
Yeah, that same excitement I have too. As many of you know, my background is in diversity education and the arts. So for me, celebrating our community's diversities and thinking about intercultural exchange through the arts, I think we already do it, and it would be a sort of re-emphasis and growing what's already there. And many of these groups too, I think, have started to do this more intentionally. CU Folk and Roots, for example, really thinks of its most recent Folk and Roots Festival as having kind of expanded who's at the table, really thinking about how to bring in diverse performances. So that's just one example, but I think that is something that an Arts and Culture Commission would be doing. And in my observation, I think a lot of cities have Arts and Culture Commissions and have very intentionally decided to put those two things together. We often have some, for instance, artistic forums, creative forums. Jason Finkelman probably knows this more than anyone else, that aren't always labeled fine arts, but are absolutely part of a fine arts experience, that draw upon the same kind of cultural histories and practices and artistic styles as other things, but bring a level of diversity and commitment to culture that I think a framing of arts and culture might allow for.
Go ahead.
How will we help? I guess you said it seems as though the open process we have here is potentially why we might be partnering. How will that be continued if those funds still have to be okayed by the council or by the group?
So a similar initiative that's happening at the city, and Eric might be able to speak to this a little bit, is the social service funding. So that is a process where there are multiple applicants of nonprofit and other charitable organizations that do great work in this community, and the city offers direct support in partnership with the township. And there's really been a need to try to standardize that process a little more. So this year, our grants division, which is also in community development, worked with the township staff to do a more robust evaluation process prior to presenting that information to council as a recommendation. Now that process is still ongoing, right? There was an initial meeting last night, and so they haven't quite completed that process, but we're watching closely how that works. But that's an example of how we're kind of putting these two processes in tandem, having more deliberate staff review. That could also be having a juried process, having the jury make the recommendation, and then the council taking a public vote on that recommendation. So that's an example, but you know, I don't want to say that it has to be that way. That's really the kind of thing we really want input from the commission on, and we hope to do research on other programs as well.
So you realize that it's only a very short time until the right wing starts to call you the Commissar of Culture for the People's Republic of Urbana.
No, they'll just call you Your Majesty.
No, we may do that.
So I wanted to,
You had some other thoughts.
yeah, I had a couple other things I just wanted to mention, kind of bringing it back to the program budget. You know, we've done things a little differently in our sequencing this year. Normally at this point in the year we would be doing a visioning with the commission, but we deliberately held off on that because we knew this was coming. And so we needed to get to a point where the mayor is ready to announce this and charge the commission with considering this proposal before we could really cut you loose to do a proper visioning, because you know you would have been visioning without some essential information otherwise. So based on how things go, we have to do the What's in Your Square initiative in June, and we can perhaps start with some dialogue then. But in addition to the commission doing some visioning deliberately around these bigger ideas for the future of the program, I recall last year in our visioning process, the commission had said, well, we really want to get some public input as well. And so that sounds like that's going to be a key ingredient as well. We kind of view this as happening in concentric circles outward. So this is the start of the conversation, the public conversation. The commission itself is going to have some deliberation and some specific visioning, and then we would really like to get public input on the core ideas that emerge from that initial conversation. At some point down the road, especially if we're making changes to the commission name, mission, or structure, then those ultimately would have to be approved by the city council as well. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
So as a council member, I have been briefed, as have each of the council members individually, about what the mayor is projecting for next year's budget. So this commission and public arts program and general should feel honored not to be asked to take a significant cut, because many parts of the city are taking significant cuts. The budget is being cut by about $500,000, and most of the budget of the city is personnel, and personnel costs are locked into certain percentage increases every year because of union agreements with a large fraction of the city staff, and with a policy that for those people who are in civil service who are not unionized, they still get increases commensurate with the union agreements. So it actually is a tremendous vote of confidence. I mean, partly it's a tremendous vote of confidence to be asked to take on more and coordinate more, but it's also a tremendous vote of confidence not to be asked to take a budget cut.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that.
So again, back to the proposed budget recommendation before you. This recommendation is for status quo, no cuts, with an additional $50,000 in funding that's already largely been spoken for. But to be clear, as we have these conversations about the future of the program, you know, we still have the ability to go back and within the total budget allocation here, shift around what's being spent on what. So, you know, if this leads to deeper reflections on how the arts program is allocating funds, I just want to be clear, this isn't locking the commission or the program into these budget levels. This is maintaining the status quo while we initiate a conversation about transition. And if we reach a point where we're ready to take action during the fiscal year, we can make budget adjustments as well.
Is that pretty much it then? Okay, well then I think we're coming to the point where we have to vote on the budget. So I am going to move that we approve this proposed program budget for the next year.
I'll
Can I have a
second that.
second? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we have any nays? Okay, then I think we've passed it. Thank you. That was hard.
It's our
Oh.
longest meeting yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one more note, we will likely be making calls to have conversations with each of you individually as well. Typically, this is something council does fairly frequently, but the mayor will have, you can have small meetings with the council members to solicit their feedback. So it's a good way to start the process, is to reach out to each of you individually, meet with you, and just kind of hear your ideas, and we'll start to try to formulate the thoughts of the commission as a whole in anticipation for our next discussion in June.
Okay, with that, did anybody have any announcements they wanted to make before we conclude here? Okay. There you go. Don't miss it.
I guess maybe we're going to have further discussions on this later, but I wonder if there's any prospect of carving out an arts space, a public arts space, publicly supported arts space in Lincoln Square as part of the
Sure.
as part of the reimagining. Because one of the things, I guess, maybe everybody here doesn't know this, and the council hasn't acted on it, but it's very likely that the Urbana Civic Center will be shut down at the end of 2018. The roof leak, basically, it's going to cost so much to fix the roof that it may not make sense to fix the roof. And you know, there are other structural issues with it. So it happens to have been a really wonderful space for us, and it'll be a wonderful space this September. But after this September, I think more likely than not, it will no longer be available. So it would really be great if alternative and better space were part of, you know, re-envisioning the square.
Can I ask a quick
ahead.
question?
Sure.
Years ago, there was some discussion about building like condominiums and things on top of, when it was Bergner's, at the mall where the co-op is now. Whatever happened to that discussion? It just didn't go anywhere, I guess, but.
Yeah, it didn't go anywhere. It needs to be reintroduced as part of the envisioning the square. We still have hopes, but they haven't yet panned out. I think people wished that they would have by now for the property that we own just north of here.
Oh, yeah, the Goodyear Tire place.
The Goodyear
Yep.
Tire
Yeah.
place, you know, and there were hopes that there was going to be a large developer who was going to do, you know, downstairs commerce, upstairs nice apartments, condos,
Right.
et cetera. But that has, and I'm not sure that that is totally dead yet, but it seems dormant.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, although maybe there's stuff going on that I don't know, but nobody should say anything about it. But I mean, I think I'm only saying things that we did, you know, talk about in public.
Yes, and there was a new call issued to developers, and there'll be a public announcement, I would say, probably within a month.
Okay.
So
So,
just quickly, related to that, do take the survey before we meet next month. The survey explicitly mentions things like arts spaces, arts residencies, arts galleries. You know, it talks about things like mixed residential. So, you know, think about what you would like to see there. Take the survey in preparation for next month. They'll give you a little taste, and then next month we'll have a visioning process of our own for what's in your square.
you know, I have tried to do some Googling about successful downtowns, but so far it seems as though everybody just sort of wants to put forth their own idea as opposed to actually looking hard. But there probably are some good studies or surveys of that, but I haven't found them yet.
Well, the geography might affect that too, right?
Yeah.
Certain physical features of the community.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, on that note, I would like to move that we adjourn. Wait a second. Okay, thank you, everybody.